Tonight, very happy to welcome our friend Elizabeth Regal. She's an actress and writer as well. She did some directing of short films. And last year we published an article about her work, background, her work in short films and television series so far. So today I'm very happy to welcome her live from the United States. Hello, Liz, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. I am glad to be on and be of service in any way and talk about myself, the industry, whatever needs to happen to help those out there. I know we're in some very interesting times.
Yes. Well, last time we spoke about your recent work, and I want to know early this year, you have a new film, a short one called Sweating Sand. It was released or not yet?
It's already been released, actually, and it had some really talented filmmakers. Derek Johnson was the producer and director of that. And I took on that role as playing a mom, not unusual for me these days, and cops and all kinds of other interesting roles. And she's kind of a stern mom, and she has a daughter that's, she's Latina, and she's following in her father's footsteps to be a boxer. She wants to be a female boxer. So it's a really interesting film how it portrays strength for ethnic women, because that's not always the case as what we used to see in previous films. So I always have a tendency to really like films with strong female characters, because it's hard for me to play, kind of a vanilla type of character, even though, they have their great roles out there for stuff like that. That's just never been me. So I took on the role. He was a great NYU New York Film Academy student, and he decided to go ahead and put on a release to film festivals, so on and so forth. And we filmed it. It was really good success, great team. That's not always the case. I've been lucky to work with great people in my career. So yeah, it's been released, I guess a few months ago now. Yeah.
Yes, so the virtual festival, this year, it was a solution, you know.
Yeah.
But tell me, I want to know, Regal is your artistic name. What your last name is Perez,
It
and
is, and I always tell people that. People always ask,
yes,
it's not a really nice name. Why did you change your name from Perez to Regal? And here's an interesting story. This is what I actually had a couple of stories in regards to this, because when I look at you, you're very ethnically ambiguous. And I'm like, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. But when you put the Perez, what was happening is that I was getting typecast, like Hollywood always likes to do, and even New York, for Latino roles. Even though I don't have anything against that, I'm actually not Latina. I'm half Filipino, and I don't speak Spanish, and I don't even speak Tagalog. Unfortunately, I speak just the boring language of English, although a little bit of Latin that I'm learning. But I would constantly go out for Latina roles, and they were really great roles. They wanted me to play this fiery Latina and all of this, and I was like, okay, that's great. And I tried to put on the accent, it just didn't work for me. And I said, even though I'm trying to learn Spanish, it's not the same as, a native speaker, because they said you could go on to Telemundo. So I said to myself, what would be a great name that I could use that's powerful, it's refined, a little bit more like the roles and character types that I have, but leaves me ethnically ambiguous. So I walked into a casting director's office. I remember this was back in Las Vegas. And she goes, yeah, you need to get rid of the Perez thing. And I was like, I was kind of insulted in a way, because people do not hesitate to tell you the truth in the industry. She goes, what about Victoria Regal? And I was like, gosh, but do I want to go all the way from Elizabeth Perez to Victoria Regal? No one's going to see the correlation. At least with Regal, people probably think, oh, she just got married. Something like that. So I decided to keep the Elizabeth, and I went with Regal. And I had actually another story before then when I was in New York City. New York is very ethnically diverse, and I remember going into a talent agent's office or talent manager, and she managed some really, really famous people. And I was very lucky to get into her office, and she wanted to sign me commercially. And I auditioned for her for a Doritos commercial, and she looked up my headshot, which said Elizabeth Perez at the time. And this was like 12 years ago before I decided to make the name switch. And she goes, that's really great, you know, because she says, well, what do you consider yourself ethnically? And I said, well, I can go out for, you know, Egyptian, Syrian, you know, any Middle Eastern roles, even Indian, and different types of roles. And she goes, you know what, with the last name Perez, I don't see that possible. And I said, well, I could be mixed with the other ethnic. And she goes, no. She goes, I really think that you need to brush up on your Spanish and come back to me. And I'm like, I don't know, that's the industry for you. And I just didn't understand that. And I was like, well, I could have changed my stage name, or you can still submit me for other roles that are ethnically ambiguous. But the way Hollywood thinks is because you have that name, you can't go out for other ethnic roles. So you're kind of pigeonholed. It's like, felt kind of stuck. And I went to my producer friend, David Havener, very famous in the industry for indie films. And he goes, well, that's Hollywood the way it is. He said, start with Elizabeth Regal and see how it works. And, you know, ever since then, it's actually been strangely has helped me out a lot, just a name change. So that's a long-winded response. But anyway, that's the story behind Elizabeth Perez to Elizabeth Regal. Anyway, I'm still the same person.
Yes. Yes, myself, Regal, I saw this like in Spanish regalo, which means gift, you know. But anyway, you are a gift, of course, to entertainment. So
Thank you. I hope so. There's so many of us out there. But anyway, I
yes.
hope. I'm trying to make the switch to move to New York City now, which is another conversation. Anyway.
But I was asking because I think some of your early work where you were credited as a Regal, maybe in the doll maker here, you know, and then you've been credited as your you know, official name. But I was watching today your show reel on the internet movie database. And did you play like a federal agent, you know, type Scully, you know, and the X-Files, and then the alien attacked you and you shot yourself?
Yeah, that's basically what I had to do. And I had no idea I was going to do this. This is the gift of improv. You never know in an interview or on movie set what's going to come their way. It was a great film. I had a very talented filmmaker, my friend Percy. And he did really great with this alien film because we had this whole alien covenant thing going on at YouTube Studios, which is huge in Hollywood. He had enough subscribers. He was the first person that filmed on that set. And he's got the #2 horror channel on YouTube right now. So he's like really known in the industry. And somehow, I don't know how he does it, he got 20th Century Fox on board somehow as a collaboration, and they own part of the intellectual property. So we actually had the DP and a lot of camera people, and we used a really high quality red as a collaboration with him to kind of make this experimental film. So I don't want to say too much about it because it may be continuing. I'm going to leave that out there, but we did it. It was a success, and it's just, you know, incredible how many people saw it. And we even had the VP of publicity from Fox Studios come out, and, you know, some studio executives I got to meet and get out there. And it was just kind of threw me through a loop. But I was like, again, another strong female character, FBI type. She's a little mysterious. It's just, I don't know how that happens. Maybe the Elizabeth Regal. No, just kidding.
But these were props from the Alien Covenant set? Yes, because they look very similar to the alien we see in Ridley Scott films. Yes, and the Weaver and
and he actually knew about the film that we had made, and I believe, as Percy said, he actually saw the film that we recreated to kind of highlight that Alien Covenant set at the time for YouTube Studios to get filmmakers and people to rent it out that had enough subscribers. So, yeah, they recreated the props to almost look identical, and then we just did our interpretation of it, of a group of us, you know, long-time working actors in LA.
You know, speaking of your looks, I remember now, like maybe more than 15 years ago, I was having a television show here in Egypt. We interview artists as well. It was before streaming and YouTube and everything. We used to shoot and send the videos to be editing in Dubai or England for Showtime Arabia, you know, which is the franchise of Showtime for the Middle East. And there was an an Egyptian actress who looks exactly like you, believe it or not. I'm gonna look for her photo and send it to you. So she,
Definitely do that. I get my share of the lookalikes people point out. I don't know, but yeah, that's one
your
market I've never worked in. Is,
doppelganger, Egyptian regal, okay?
okay, I will go for it.
Tell me, Elizabeth, what did you do during the period of the lockdown and the COVID and everything, you know?
Oh, um, that is a loaded question. I will say one thing too, which is kind of rare in Hollywood. I will say I'm a highly spiritual type, and I believe in a lot of supernatural energies. And I've been working a lot on my internal self and internal work. So I bridge the gap. I guess I'm kind of a parapsychologist by heart, where I bridge the gap between psychology and spiritual, and that's very important as an artist. So finding myself, finding ways to recreate myself, finding ways, what is going on in the world, what's going on in Hollywood, and doing so much research, you know, because I read a lot of ancient wisdom. So it's inspired me as a filmmaker. So I'm reading my certain amount of magic type books. I read a lot of stuff in ancient Egypt, like the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I read that. I actually have an Egyptian altar setting up across from me right now. People don't know. So I really love things to do with Hathor and Amun-Ra and, you know, all the ancient Egyptian culture. Believe it or not, I spend a lot of my time studying. And somehow I want to integrate that type of spiritual work coming up into my acting work in filmmaking, because I was taking a look at the world, how it evolved and where things came from. That's something that I spend a lot of my time doing, is pondering on and theoretical concepts of how things evolved from A to Z, understanding the origin of where things come from. To me, that's so important to understand. It seems like a very vague concept, but as an actor and a filmmaker, it's very important for me to understand my characters and also the scripts that I work on. You've got this big picture and you've got a script. Now, how do we put the pieces of the puzzle together to make a beautiful project? How do I want to be seen as an actress? How do I want to be seen as a writer, filmmaker, producer? Spending a lot of my time questioning things about the universe. And maybe a lot of people don't tie those two things together. They're just looking for another script or, you know, marketing themselves. I want to understand a lot about the world. What does the world need right now is what I've spent a lot of time thinking about. How
Yeah,
can I be of service to the planet? How could I take concepts of higher spirituality and other spiritual abilities dormant in us and put them into my films as messages to help people and awaken people? The earth needs an awakening, and I need to be part of that awakening first from the inside out. Like Manly P. Hall talks about the awakening of the pineal gland. Not to get too much into that, I was studying his book on the pineal gland because I'm very much a fan of Manly P. Hall and some of his ancient wisdom. And taking these complex concepts and integrating them into society. So I've spent a lot of time working on that, working on another program, The Art of Feminine Presence, with Rachel Drain Gover, which is an awakening to me, as awakening that female essence in Hollywood. That's very, very important to maintain that, and being true to myself and a lot of my characters, and bringing about that feminine essence. I want it to be strong, but not masculine, but feminine too. So I'm working on that. Working on a program called the Stargate Solution as well. You know, integrating science into my work, spiritual. So I spend time thinking about a lot of complex things, maybe overthinking things. I'm an INTJ, by the way, you guys, and Myers-Briggs. So I'm just doing a lot of inner reflection and work, and just figuring out how I can integrate my work to help other people, because it's not about me anymore. Like I used to be in the youth. Oh, I want to be a star. I want to get all red carpet. I want all this publicity. And it's just empty at the end of the day. There has to be that journey and connection with others. And how can I do this? So Elizabeth is spending a lot of time studying, reflecting, and rebranding herself, as Hollywood is getting ready to go through a big transformation. The whole world is going through a re-landscape for the better, I believe.
Yes,
Hopefully
but
that's not a long-winded answer.
you know, I noticed this year there were a lot of works, you know, like television series and films about either about second coming of Jesus Christ,
Yes.
or people imagining themselves they are reincarnation of Christ. And also, you know, not only in Judaism or Christianity, in Islam as well, and in the Middle East, they believe there is some kind of savior who will come to earth and save it, you know, and try to be inspiration, you know, like you know, with the prophets we hear, we know about, you know, in the holy books, you know. But I'm asking you this because do you think right now that according to your readings and beliefs and everything, do you think right now humanity is like yelling for help or for
Yeah.
saving, you know, right now in 2020?
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, let's see. You want me to talk about the second coming of Christ, or you talk about the rebirth of the earth, or what was it? Because
Yes,
I study so
about
many things.
you think, you know, a lot of works like this and like a lot of articles, a lot of reading, but do you think right now humanity is feeling like it needs some kind of redemption, some kind of someone coming saving her? Because I think we're living a very troubled time
Yeah,
that were
we are.
not before. Before troubles used to be in certain spots of the world, you know, but right now, you know, if you read the news worldwide, you know, every part of the world is suffering in a different way, correct?
Yeah.
Mm.
This is a very loaded question, and I'm careful the way I say it. It's going to make people angry, you know,
Mhm.
because I will get slammed on some of my opinions. Let me just say, I'm a very strong, vocal
Mhm.
person. I'm just going to put it this way.
Mhm.
You know, and having grown up Catholic in the Bible, although I study all different types of religions and I respect all different types of religions because I do believe there's an overlap in all religions. There is
Mhm.
a light and a belief in a light, a higher power, or Christ energy in every religion, going all the way back to Hindu, which was one of the first religions on earth. And that's where Isaac Newton's law of conservation comes from, is the Bhagavad Gita, talking about the evolvement of light and energy. And this always goes back to Amun Ra's law of one. You know,
Mhm.
I, not to get too conspiracy theorist, but now that you're going to go there, why not? Let's delve in and make a few friends and enemies. No, I personally feel that this higher power, there is definitely a light energy and a dark energy, and we have the capacity for both inside of us. Okay, it's just about balance and embracing both, but we push towards the light. Of course, that's the nature of humanity. That's what we want. We want that salvation. We want to go to a higher place. We want to evolve past the third dimension after we die, or we want to reincarnate to a higher being. Some people, you know, talk about the fifth and sixth dimension, you know, going on. I truly believe is talking about biblical terms in the book of Revelation, for example, you see a lot of things coming to pass. You see, as what they call, you know, astrologists, you know, the Bible is more than what we think of. It has a great deal of complex concepts from science to religion to astronomy to astrology that was written in all different types of languages that we try to condense down into the modern King James version, which can be subject to be misinterpreted as the ages go on. But we do know we're birthing into the age of Aquarius. So anytime there's a news cycle, every 2,166 years, I believe, there's going to be a rapid change. There is going to be a collapse of certain systems because that's the only way humans can evolve. If we're going to stay the same with no catastrophe ever, how are we going to grow? That's transformation. The challenges and the troubled times brings us the unity together. Human beings are now going to learn how to unify with each other. Will this abolish racism? You know, our discrimination against, certain races, certain genders. We're going to have to come together as one consciousness, because we are one consciousness, as we talk about in physics. Not to get into that, that's something that I study a little bit of quantum physics. As we go through these interesting challenges, I truly believe as we go into this new ion or age, what they call the age of Aquarius, or in ancient Egypt, we talk about the ion of Horus, which is the child. That's the balance of the male and the female. We went through the matriarchal system, maybe it didn't work so well, the patriarchal system, that's lacking. Now we're going into a balance. So a lot of the systems that we knew of this previous age may come to a complete collapse. And studying Jordan Maxwell and David Wilcock and a number of very talented scientists and researchers, I can honestly say, in my own opinion, I feel there is going to be an entire planetary collapse of all the systems of what we knew. And this may be for the good. Maybe we've delved into, trying to word this as best as I can diplomatically, maybe perhaps we've delved into a direction, or the leaders of our planet have delved into a direction that may not have served us in the best way as humanity. Will that be judged? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how the light or the other side looks at it. And some people say, it could be alien beings, studying crop circles. Is that, the rise of Atlantis, is that going to be rebirth? Is Atlantis going to come again? That's another concept you're seeing in the television field a lot. Stuff about Atlantis, stuff about ancient wisdom, this new frontier. I really, truly, strongly feel that in the pit of my stomach, this 2020 is a precursor of the systems collapsing. I don't think religions will be the same. I don't think politics will be the same. I don't think currency will be the same. They're saying even the Federal Reserve may go bankrupt, and we may have just a complete new world structure, what people call the New World Order, New World Revolution movement, and they demify it. But it's actually a positive thing to have new structures on the planet, but we're programmed to hold on to what we know. As again, bringing up the Matrix trilogies, the movie industry always tells what's to come. I will say that as a trend in Hollywood, as you will see, certain movies will always tell the truth of what's to come and what's really going on if you just pay attention to the symbolism, which is a good thing, because then we know. It's got its other side too, Hollywood, but it does tell other things to come. And we've seen this coming for a long time, a collapse. And we're seeing it now. And it's a test with the whole coronavirus, which to me overlaps with the 5G, but that's another conversation. But there is going to be a new movement. It has to, because we're going into poverty more than we've ever seen before. What is it, like something like 90% of the earth is in poverty right now? That is crazy. Yes. And California going through a lot of things. What's going on with the karma of California? We went through fires. I experienced an earthquake. We've had several of them recently, more frequently. We had riots that are crazy. California and Los Angeles, I think, is the #1 city in the world with the most cases. What's going on? And we're the movie industry and the media industry and social media that's programming the entire planet. So I feel like there's something to be said there spiritually, not to get too specific, but I believe the energies on both sides are going to battle it off. And hopefully, it's for a positive means, this new birthing, and I think it will. But, just like any new age, it may begin with the force and fire of a lot of destruction, but people live in fear, and we just have to not live in fear and trust God that whatever is happening, it's for our best self. But I believe that if you're in line with your higher power and your higher self, it also talks about following the network, AOC Network, which is really interesting on Facebook, because they talk a lot about uplifting messages. We'll be protected from a lot of that catastrophe. So some people may do better than others, during times of pandemic, but it's just taking a look at this from a higher perspective and realizing it's for the best. It's tough, but we will make it through it. Humanity and the earth is strong. Whether or not people say, oh, this is the end of humanity, we're going to be destroyed, we're going to be taken over by aliens and transhumans. We have no way to control that, but we just have to stay in the form of love, because our Tiferet, our heart chakra, is the strongest thing that we have as humanity, and we have to activate that more than anything. Because when we activate that and we stay together as one race, we can raise what is called the Schumann resonance of our planet. And Schumann resonance talks about the vibration and magnetic field of our planet. And there are scientists that measure this day by day by day. So if we can get, even as David Wilcox says, even 1% of the planet to raise the vibration, that 1% will change the entire structure of the planet. So maybe that's what's happening. The Schumann resonance and the physics are changing and things are compressing. We are going through a birthing. According to NASA, we're going into the cycle 25, our solar cycle. So that is a change. You know, according to the Zolkin-Hop calendar, we're in the sixth sun now. Because according to the Mayan calendar, at the end of 2012, we went through 5 sun cycles, and that was the end of time. Now we're in the 6th sun cycle. And you can look this up in the Zolkin-Hop calendar, and this was back from the ancient Aztecs. So we are going through a new time that humanity has never seen. But this is amazing because we are in the last generation to see this change. So we're volunteer souls that have been put on this planet. And I think it's an incredible time to experience. And I think it's going to be very positive at the end, because if you look at most prophecies, that's what it says. We go through a period of darkness, but the light is at the end, because that was the growth to get to the other side. So I think it's going to be a wonderful time for humanity to see a new change.
Hopefully. But Elizabeth, tell me, do you consider writing your own material in the future, or do you have something written that you're looking right now for production, something of your own writing?
I always have things going on, and I always do my stuff. This is something I did last year. Like, I do my own films. I've produced, written, directed like close to 11 films. I got this and I framed it. The Dream International Film Festival, I won Best Director for Seductive Shadows, and this was back in February 2019. And actually that film won, I think, 10 awards between different festivals. So I feel right now what I'm working on, not to be specific because people like to take your ideas, I'm going to work on a lot of these spiritual and scientific things going on in our planet and create some kind of series, ongoing series in regards to something. And it could be made into a full-length film. You can have, 5 to 6 stories and put them into one film, because that's what people want. People have very short attention spans nowadays with social media. They could make 10 to 15-minute films and make a series or put it together in a full-length feature. So that's what I have in store. And I'm going to take these certain concepts like Schumann resonance, the sun cycle 25. You can get really into sci-fi, because sci-fi is one of the biggest sells going on because of the target audience of that. So maybe that's something I'm working on.
Excellent. Okay, Liz, I want to thank you very, very much for this interview. It was really a pleasure talking to you. Hope next time we speak about your new projects in the new year, it will be better year for everybody,
It will, definitely will. We have to
Yes.
go through our periods.
And best wishes for the upcoming period, and let's follow up on your news, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Love, hugs and kisses. We're going to make it through this.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.